Thanks for visiting Buffzone.com. I'm Kyle Ringo. This is Neill Woelk. We cover the University of Colorado football team for the Daily Camera newspaper. It's Nebraska week, and Neill, I think the question on everybody's mind right now going into this game against the Cornhuskers isn't necessarily about the game. It's, will Dan Hawkins be the football coach this time next week?
Kyle, if history, trends, all those kind of things are something that you believe in, then no, Dan Hawkins won't be. The last 3 games between Colorado and Nebraska and Boulder have produced one of the coaches getting fired the week after, or at least 10 days after. Frank Solitz got the axe in 2003, Gary Barnett in 2005, Bill Callahan in 2007. This is 2009. That would suggest that one of the coaches in this game is not going to be here in about 10 days or 2 weeks. I can't believe that would be Bo Pelini. That leaves only one other choice.
All right, so let me run a scenario by you here. I'm not sure I believe this is going to happen, but let's say the Buffs come out, play really well, maybe their best game of the season against Nebraska, upset the Cornhuskers, and maybe even, really kind of take it to them. Let's just say that happens. Like I said, I'm not sure I believe it will. Will that be enough to maybe save Dan Hawkins and his assistants and carry them into next season?
If Dan Hawkins is the coach here next year, my theory is that they're going to go to him and say, you have to change out a bunch of assistants. A la Bill Marolt that's what he told Bill McCartney in 1984 when he agreed to extend his contract then after a 1-10 season. So I think that if that scenario would play out, there would definitely be some new assistant coaches. I don't think that that's enough to save Dan Hawkins' job is a win over Nebraska, but you said that that's an unlikely scenario. If you look at this team, they've lost 2, 1-1, lost 2, 1-1, lost 2, 1-1 all year long. They just got done losing 2, so if you look at trends and numbers, it would suggest that they're going to come out, play well, and maybe even win this game. But I don't know that a win over Nebraska is enough to save Dan Hawkins' job. What are your thoughts?
I don't think it is. I just think there's too much evidence, so to speak, mounting against this staff. The road losing streak, just really the lack of improvement over the course of the season. I mean, the Colorado
over the course of the era.
Right, that's true too. If you just look at this season, the Colorado Buffaloes, I mean, what you just said is a perfect example. They lose 2, win 1, lose 2, win 1. They've just been inconsistent. A lot of the same things keep biting them in the butt, so to speak. I mean, the penalties, the big plays, those were problems earlier in the year, and they continue to be problems going into the final game of the season. And I just think that, along with, 16-32 and not winning a road game in a couple of years now, all those things kind of stack up against this coaching staff and kind of make a case for making a change.
Yeah, I think, like you said, the evidence, the body of work, the evidence, all those things, when you add them up, would suggest that Dan Hawkins is likely not going to be the coach here next year. And certainly, I don't have any inside information that says he's going to get fired, but nobody has said he's not. I think Mike Bone is.
And I think that right there is the biggest. That's the biggest telling point. I mean,
yeah, nobody's come out and said no. Dan Hawkins will not be fired.
Right.
Exactly.
I mean, all you got to do is go back a couple of months. I mean, in training camp, in July, in September, after the loss to Toledo, for that matter, whenever Mike Bone was asked about Dan Hawkins and his future at Colorado, considering it's the 4th year and the expectations had been raised in part by the coach talking about 10 wins. Whenever Mike Bone was asked those questions, he consistently said, Dan's our coach, Dan's our guy, we believe in Dan, everything's going to be fine. And at that point in time, I think they still had a whole season's worth of games to look forward to and whatnot. Now they're looking back and seeing, the 3-8 record going into the season finale here, and you're not hearing that from Mike Bone. You're hearing that the coach will be evaluated at the end of the season. You're hearing that there's no timeline for making a decision about the coach. It's dramatically different language, and that is obviously a key indicator of where the athletic director is pointed.
Yeah, if you're trying to read the writing on the wall for next year's Colorado Buffaloes, it's hard to see Dan Hawkins' name on that wall. I think that's safe to say. What about the Cornhuskers?
the Cornhuskers are a very solid defense this year. Just a few years ago, they couldn't play defense. I mean, Kansas, I think, scored 73 points against them 2 years ago.
The CU put 65 on them.
Yeah,
here
exactly.
In
So that right there is that's coaching. That's Bo Pelini, who was hired a couple of years ago after Bill Callahan got fired. And Bo Pelini, a defensive-minded guy, and he's obviously brought that to the Cornhuskers, and they're back to being the black shirts of old. And they've allowed one team all year in 11 games to score more than 17 points, and that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, they've got a great team, and I love their defensive lineman, and Ndamukong Suh. I think he's the best.
You said it. You got it right.
I did. I know.
Good job.
I had to really go fast. I think he's the best college football player in America. He doesn't lead his team in tackles and sacks anymore because Jared Crick had a big game against a couple of weeks ago where he had 5 sacks, but it was because Suh was getting double teamed on every play. He is the most dominant defensive player I have seen in years. He changes games. He blocks kicks. He forces fumbles. He's intercepted passes. He is a guy that the opposing offense has to account for on every play, and that kind of player is a dominant player, and it'll be fun to watch him play this weekend, and I'm sure Ryan Miller is not thinking of the word fun when he's thinking about playing him, but I look forward to that opportunity.
You know, I've been kind of wrestling with the idea of putting a defensive tackle into the Heisman poll that we run every week, and he's right there. And to tell you the truth, I probably ought to have him at least in my top 10. He isn't in there right now, and I'm not sure I could put him in the top 5, but I think he probably does belong in the top 10 at this point.
Oh yeah, I think he's just, yeah, like I said, the times that I sat and watched Nebraska play, and I actually taped a couple of the games and watched him and just watched him play on every play, and he's a dominant force, and he's just fun to watch how he affects an entire offense. I mean, what they have to do to try and stop him. I mean, they're chip blocking him with one guy and using another guy, head up on him on every play. I mean, nobody tries to single man him, if they can get away with it. So, that's a huge test for Colorado. And Colorado's offense actually looked pretty good against Oklahoma State. Didn't run the ball well, but they threw the ball well.